G'day everyone, my name's Sam from Spored Shitless. We're in sunny Queensland, Australia, and today hopefully I'm going to show you how to grow Platycerium Superbum from spore. These little guys here, they're 4 of my plants out the front, and we're going to use a technique that I've used to grow many different types of ferns, Cyatheias, Dixonias, Pteris furtata, most of the Platycerium species, and yeah, hopefully we can have a good crack at it. So we're going to go from our spore, these are just off a couple of my plants, to gametophyte stage in about 3 months. This one was done in August. Extreme selfie. And then go across to the plantlet stage, and these started coming out about a month ago, so about 6 months now, so they were started in May. So yeah. This is just another example of Dixonia antarctica. They were started in May. I've already got 2 little baby plantlets coming up on the left hand side. So yeah, you can use this technique for any type of fern, and there's some variation that I've got on other people's techniques that will hopefully get you some success. So this is the substrate that I use, cocoa core. We've got 3 parts cocoa core, 2 parts peat moss, and 1 part sand. Pretty simple. A lot of people use 100% peat moss. I try not to do that, just to be a little bit more environmentally friendly with cocoa core. And to be honest with you, I actually get less infections when I use less peat moss. But you do need it in there. You do need it in there, especially at the plantlet stage. You need that organic matter, but I'll explain that in another video. So let's crack on. So what we want to do is get all of this and add it to here. Just add it in your bucket and have enough water to get the cocoa core to expand, and you want to have enough water because what we're going to do then is we're going to boil it, or in my case pressure cook it. Now why are we doing that? What we're trying to do is reduce our contaminants or infections as much as possible. We're not trying to achieve 100% sterility. We can't anyway, because once you add the spores, you're contaminating your container anyway. But we want to minimize it as much as possible. So this is why I pressure cook my substrate. The reason being is it breaks it down really nicely. See that? Turns out just like dirt, nice and fine. Boiling does the same. So if you're going to boil it, boil your substrate for about half an hour to an hour. If you're going to pressure cook it, this is half an hour at 15 psi, and let it cool down for about 6 hours. It turns out really, really nicely. Try to avoid the microwave. I used to use the microwave, but my infection rate was really high, so I don't bother doing that anymore. And also, if you microwave it in your containers tend to warp. So boiling, pressure cooking, really good. Right, now here's my little secret. See these little holes here? This is what's dropped my contamination rate virtually down to 0. Now, why am I drilling holes in this and putting band-aids on like a weirdo? Well, what we're trying to do is maintain gas exchange all of the time, even when the lid's on. So I'll change the camera angle now, and I'll show you, how to drill the holes and where to drill the holes in your container and the reasons why. Actually, I'll explain the reason why now. I'll grab one of my, go down a little bit more and grab one of my boxes that I've done already. Here's one I've prepared earlier. Now, if you can see the water on the sides there, that's condensation obviously, but you can see on the lid, there's no water. Now, what happens is, if you don't have micropore tape, or if you don't have holes on the side and especially on the top, if you've got a temperature differential between the bottom and the top of the container, obviously condensation, water will rise, hit the top, water droplets will form, and then fall back on your spores. That will significantly reduce, 1, your germination rate, and 2, how fastly they grow. And additionally, your gas exchange, when your spores actually germinate, they'll grow much, much faster. So I'll go into more detail in another video, but that's in a nutshell what's going on. So let's move the camera angle now and I'll show you how to do it and how to prepare your substrate and how to sow your spore. Okay, this is just an interlude to show you what your substrate should look like, because I forgot to show you in the first section. So what you want to do is, after you've boiled or pressure cooked your substrate, this is what it should look like. What you should be doing is grabbing your substrate and squeezing all the water out. All of it. Now, if any of you are familiar with mycology and growing mushrooms, there's a term called field capacity, basically where you squeeze it and there's still some drops of water in there. You don't want any water at all. Squeeze it all out, beyond field capacity. Now, how I would describe that, I wouldn't even describe it as moist, it's just not dry. See that? That's how it should look, nice and crumbly. Because what we'll do is we'll add some fertilizer to that later on, and that will be all the water that you need. So again, I'll show you, grab it up, squeeze it all out, completely squeezed out. And that's what you should be putting in your container. Come a bit closer. See that? Nice. Okay, we're back. Hopefully the lighting's okay. So yeah, we've just got the 1 litre Chinese shop container here. So you want one that's not too deep and not too shallow, just right. So this you have 1 litre. Then you want to get your diamond tip cutter that you'll get off eBay or Amazon, 16mm across. You don't want to use a hole saw because that will crack your plastic. You don't want to use a fluted drill because that'll crack the plastic as well. Now, I'm saying 16mm across, this is what I use. You can go right down to 8mm. Doesn't really matter, even up. I've had a massive hole in the top. Doesn't really matter, just not too big to allow too much humidity to leave, and not too small so your gas exchange is compromised. But 16mm works a treat. So you want to drill 2 holes in the top, 2 holes in the side, just like I made over here. 2 in the lid, 2 in the side. As I said, it's for gas exchange, but also to stop condensation building up on the lid, and I'll explain that in more detail in another video. So now that we've got the container prepared, we want to fill it up with substrate. Now, pretty sure I showed you in the last section that when you grab your substrate, you want to grab it in your fist. Sorry, it's just having an off camera here. And you want to squeeze all the water out, and then put it in your container. Now that substrate should be completely dry. No water whatsoever. And fill that container up until it's just below those holes. Then, when you've got enough in there, go a little bit more. And when you've got enough in there, pat it down completely flat. Doesn't have to be too tight, but it needs to be completely flat. Well, it works better when it's completely flat. Still, you know, be okay if it's not. You don't have to be too anal about it. Whoops, not even in screen. Alright, there we go, we'll lift it up. See, it's not completely flat. So, once that's done, that's ready to sow. Now just put that off screen for the moment, because I want to talk about the water that we'll put on top. It's actually fertilizer. So what I use with some success, I've actually got my own mixture that I've been using, but these are off-the-shelf options that work really well. This is just from Hammerbarn. You'll get, this is Nitro Plus from Manutech. What you're looking for is a high nitrogen content. So if you have a look here, what have we got? That's nitrate at 5.4% weight per volume. That's high. Now that they've got Manutech have got a range, NPK, potash I think is another one that they've got. As long as it's higher in nitrogen. Thrive by Yates, you'll find it Hammerbarn as well. And if you have a look here, hopefully that's in focus for you guys, but yeah, 12.4, it's quite high in nitrogen. Both of them work really well. Now, anything that you use can't have any organic matter in it. Nothing like carp or seaweed, nothing with organic matter whatsoever. That will introduce contaminants, and your chances of getting cyanobacteria, or that green slime, is much higher with organic material. We'll use that later on. I'll talk about different fertilizers in another video, but these are the ones that you want to use, or ones with high nitrogen. So mix it up to the ratio that they say on this one. I think it's 10 ml per 2 litres. So I just use my pump action spray gun, again from Hammerbarn, Nylax, 2 litre. Mix it up to the ratio that it says. Get your container, pump up some pressure. Now just spray across the surface like that. Now we want to get it wet enough so there's a film across the top. We don't want to drench it, right? So as long as there's a film of water across the top, that's perfect. Then we're right to sow. So what I do is we'll use a paintbrush, our bag of spores, dip our paintbrush in there. Now you'll notice, if you've done this before, if you haven't done it before, my bag's got quite a bit of other material, plant material off the fertile frond, including the spores. I don't bother cleaning my out. I find it doesn't make any difference whatsoever. You can filter them out, filter the spores out. Either way, it doesn't really matter. But on that brush now, there'll be thousands of little spores. Then just go across the top, tap it all on like that. They'll fall all across the surface. That's all you need to do. So, what I don't want you to do now is spray on top. That's it, you just leave it. If you spray on top, what it'll do is it will flood the spores and it will take longer to germinate. All you're trying to do now is imbibe those spores with water, and that film of water across the top will do that for you. Whack a lid on, and that's it. That's done. So you can put a label on it, put your date on it, you can put your fertilizer type, whatever details you want, your species, whatever, and then put it under your lights. But that's pretty much it. Now I'll do another series of videos on temperatures, lighting, humidity, different light spectrum, all those kind of things. I'll add to it, but that should get you started. Alright, thanks for watching.